On the flip side, then, if it's we'll use the Chicago White Sox as an example.
I'm not going into anyone else's situation. I'm going to talk on ours.
We'll just use it as a...
All right, hey, big episode of The Stretch today. We have Blackhawks GM Kyle Davidson coming on. We sat down with him in person for over an hour.
Yeah.
Really fun interview. So that's going to be the lion's share of the show today. Before we get into it, though, I do want to talk about No Bull. No Bull is a footwear brand built for training. It's a brand for anyone who strives to be better every day with options across training and lifestyle. No Bull has options for everyone. It's a brand for anyone who wants to be a better version of themselves and get stronger physically, mentally, and emotionally. They don't overpromise or underdeliver. The shoes just feel great and hold up to any occasion. And not to mention, this is the same brand worn by Olympic athletes, NHL players, and TB12 himself. I got to tell you guys, obviously, No Bull, new big sponsor across Barstool. And when they do this, you never know what you're going to get. These are great.
They're fantastic.
Yes, I've been wearing them the past 2 weeks.
Did you see how fast I was in the combine last week?
You were very fast.
Mm-hmm. What was your time?
4.3 or 5.3.
I was like, which combine were you at?
Exactly.
You never know with No Bull.
Exactly.
Shaved a second off your 40
second.
time.
Yeah, you're running for Northwestern or what? So yeah, exclusively for Stretch listeners, No Bull is offering 35% off your first order. Visit nobullproject.com and use code STRETCH for 35% off your entire first order. That's nobullproject.com. Use code STRETCH for 35% off. Go get in on the action. And on that note, welcome everybody to The Stretch. Like I said off the top of the show, today's show is largely going to be brought to you by Kyle Davidson. We sat down with him right in that chair for like an hour and 15 minutes.
Felt like long, yeah.
I didn't think it felt like that long because the conversation was so
good.
good.
But it's like one of those things where, we haven't had a ton of GMs and certainly a lot of Blackhawks time. So yeah, it was like, I can't believe this is actually happening. He came in studio. So shout out to Kyle and the Hawks for having that happen.
Yeah, it was great. He was great. Learned a lot of good things.
Yeah.
Just like got really a feel for him. He's a good dude. So we hope you guys enjoy that. We'll get to that shortly. Before we do, though, we'll start with Bears, as usual. We're kind of in the situation where I think we're going to be recycling the same talking points, but there were some new ones last week. Like the Bajan thing kind of got ramped up a notch.
Yeah.
Says reported that the Bears are looking for a second rounder, which, of course, that's negotiating. You're going to set the highest price. Who knows if that'll actually happen. Sounds like Tremaine Edmonds has been granted permission to seek a trade.
Yep.
And then the other name that was new was Javon Dexter was possibly in the trade.
Yeah, I was confused by that one.
So was I. That was probably the most random. Edmonds makes sense. He makes a lot of money.
Yep.
And if you're just most likely going to cut him, you might as well try to get a pick for him.
Mm-hmm.
Bajan makes sense. Like, he's blocked, and teams need quarterbacks.
And Ben Johnson absolutely fucking loves that guy. Apparently, all of his quotes were like, he's one of the top 32 quarterbacks in this league. I love Tyson, which, again, like, you're going to support your guy. But it doesn't seem like, if you take him at his word, it doesn't seem like they're just going to give him away.
As they shouldn't.
I agree.
Oh, yeah.
As they should. But, yeah, so those are kind of the main things. Yeah, Dexter trade news was kind of interesting.
Because that's already a weakness.
Yes.
And is his deal up after this year?
Yeah, that was his fourth year, so.
This was, no, I don't think so.
Was that his third year?
No, he has 1 year left on his rookie.
Okay, that's what it is.
Yes, exactly. So. That was surprising. You're right, especially because it was a position of weakness, so to speak. And you would think if they do shore up that opposite edge rusher, that makes things a little better for him as well.
No doubt. That was, even though like we like him, I don't think he had the best year last year.
No.
Like he was just a kind of a body, but durable, which is saying something. But if almost every mock draft that I see has the Bears looking at Cade McDonald at 25. And so maybe that's part of the equation too, where it's like we know where we're going to be picking, but so much is going to change between now and then because you're going to have – we just started the combine. You're going to have free agency. You could have a trade. Like if the Max Crosby thing is real and does come to fruition, you would imagine that 25th pick would be going back to the Raiders in that scenario. So a lot to play out.
For sure. He's a UFA after next year,
to
be clear. I think You're right, and I listen. There's going to be a lot more time before we really have to analyze some draft prospects and whatnot. But you just go best player available, I think, especially on the D line.
Yeah, yeah, because it's not
defense,
like not like they need one player.
I'd say defense even too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because they still have to sort out what they're doing at safety too.
Yes.
So it's like if there is a kid
They don't
who's
have a safety right now.
right.
Yeah.
So I think Byard will be back.
I would think
but
so.
It
But
sounds
as
like
the
immediate aftermath of the season didn't make it seem like Brisker was going to be part of their plans.
It did not. No.
But he says he wants to run it back. He commented on Instagram, so let's run it back. So he obviously wants to be here. It's just a
I
matter
think this is finally, maybe the first time ever, a desirable place to be.
yeah. No, I think it's very
So-
desirable. And I mean, it starts with Ben,
Yeah.
like at the combine, just saying who likes the Packers.
Yeah.
A bunch of other little things making the media rounds. Fake
We don't
taking-
talk.
Fake taking his shirt off at the Bulls
Bulls
game
game.
last
Yeah.
night. Yeah, just saying him and LaFleur don't talk.
Yeah.
Some real beef, dude.
Yeah.
Like
Good.
real beef.
But
Fuck
like
Matt LaFleur.
I don't think Ben Johnson, he probably doesn't have anything directly personal against. It was like who's ever the coach, he's going to go after him.
And that's exactly how it should be.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know if
exactly
that's
how
true,
it
though.
should be.
You
From
think
what,
he-
from what I've heard.
Oh,
Whoa,
really?
whoa, you can't say that. You
I'm just saying what I think there was already previous animosity from.
From when he was in Detroit?
Yeah.
Really?
I do.
It doesn't seem like he would just conjure up a absolute hatred for someone just based on who that guy is the coach for, even if it's the rival.
Yeah.
Because you know how the NFL works. It's kind of like a frat house.
I
you
know, but like
like a brotherhood.
his
to an
introductory
extent.
press conference, like I really enjoyed beating Matt LaFleur twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they're asked about it, it's like, no, we don't have any relationship.
Yes.
So it's like you would think that it would either be like, oh, I was busting balls, or it's like, you know, like there might be a nod to something. But it sounds like there was like no real community. So I'm wondering where the beef actually
Maybe he
Started?
is just a psychopath.
stems from.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously it's another coach in your division, so you see them twice. You see them.
Yeah. I wonder if
And-
it's like a Michael Jordan, Rodney Harrison thing where he just like sits up at night being like, I fucking hate this guy. This guy slighted me with something somewhere along the way. And
Yeah, that's the thing about these.
yeah.
Is who knows about little interactions or
Right.
something that rubbed
Yeah.
you the wrong way. You just never know.
Yeah.
Besides that, obviously, Pohl spoke as well. Main takeaway there, he's like, yeah, listen, we like DJ, but like we have to do what's best for the team.
That
Expect
made
him
it
to
sound
say
like
that.
he was also on his way out a little bit.
Is that what you thought too, or do you think it's
that's-
like you expect him to say that?
I don't expect him to say. I expect him to assume that his current roster is the roster until a move is made and to protect his guy. But it didn't sound like that at this time, from that exact quote.
I think that they're in a legit cap situation.
Yeah.
And they will have to pay Caleb pretty soon. So that's if you're looking 2-3 years down the line where you're like, oh shit, now we got, you know, maybe a record setting contract at quarterback potentially. Then DJ signed beyond that, and it's like you kind of have to do a few moves. And because they've drafted well, where do you have they had 4 guys with over 600 yards and 2 of them were rookies. So, and as hopefully Rome is healthy and improves and all, you know, like that position, Luther Burden was starting to kind of be the primary guy as a receiver anyways.
Yeah.
So it's like, then you like DJ. He's been an important piece here, but is he a surplus to goods where you can use that money to shore up other parts of the roster?
Yeah.
That is absolutely what pulls his weight right now, and I think it's going to be a pretty. I don't want to call it an easy decision down the road. Like maybe as far down the road as the next couple of weeks, might be a couple months, but I think that with everything that Burden and Loveland and this next draft class, I'm sure they're going to be taking an offensive player or two, obviously free agency. I would assume that based on everything you just said, that is kind of a surplus of goods that he is going to be dealt and it's going to be used to shore up the defense. And honestly, I think that as much as we all love DJ, that's the way to go.
And same thing with Tremaine, where Tremaine makes a lot of money. He missed a lot of time, and it's not like when Tremaine came back,
He wasn't great.
He's so much better than Jackson, who was like basically a practice squad guy. So like they're gonna have. They did say Jacob Rodriguez said he had an interview with him, the Texas Tech
He
guy.
loves the Bears, it sounds like.
I love him.
I like him.
That mustache, like
Linebacker.
The neck.
Yeah, the whole
Yeah.
thing. Like, he would be a very look. I watched Texas Tech probably the same as everybody else in this room.
None.
No, I mean you know,
Yeah, I know
made
what
the
you mean,
playoff.
made the playoff,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I just watch a lot of random college football, but it's not like I know anything about like his measurables or anything. But when you just see him play and you hear him speak, you're like, God damn! Like if he's like any good at all, he would be so popular here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, and listen, DJ, he's a very desirable player for
Definitely.
a lot of teams in this league.
As is
because-
Tremaine, I would say.
Yeah,
Assuming that
To a
Tremaine,
way less.
yeah,
sure,
like,
sure.
Like DJ Moore would be the number one wide receiver on a lot of teams.
A lot of teams. Yeah.
A lot of teams. And listen, it doesn't matter if you have a rookie quarterback, a bridge quarterback,
A shit quarterback
you
like the
always
Bears
want a
and
guy
DJ
that
had.
you're able to
Yeah.
throw it to, and DJ's one of those guys. Like,
Yeah.
look at that when the Bears were shit. Like
Yeah.
DJ was really
12,
good.
1,300
exactly.
yard years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. He was good. So, I don't think that you just need to have the right cap because he's
Yeah.
like 28 or whatever.
There
and then-
was an article in The Athletic came out over the weekend that had a league source said, it's clear to me Caleb doesn't have a ton of trust in DJ. I don't think DJ has lost a step or anything like that. All the physical ability is still there. But at times, that's what it boils down to. If your quarterback, for whatever reason, doesn't have that trust, there becomes a disconnect. And I think there's probably some merit to that where this was DJ's statistically worst year ever. And you saw other guys emerge. And it's like, DJ had huge moments this year. But it's like there were so many times where it just felt like they weren't quite on the same page up to and including the last play of the season.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah,
But he was a good soldier here. I would.
For sure. Yeah, I have nothing against. Even if he stays, like, great.
Yeah.
I like
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
They figured out a way to improve the roster, hopefully,
Yeah.
and keep DJ Moore. Like, great. I'm
Yeah.
not going to be mad about running back Rome, DJ, and Luther at all.
No,
As they say it, it's a great problem to have.
Yeah.
But you can't have your highest paid guy being your fourth option, which
Sure,
you would
I
think next year with Burden, Rome, and
But I don't think he's the fourth option.
Love. But like
I don't view it that way.
maybe not this past year, but like you
Hey,
could certainly make the argument that it was
moving
the end of the year.
forward,
It was
yeah.
kind of trending that way, and as hopefully those guys improve in year two, and like really, this is in a way it'll be Rome's year two as well because he was so banged up and in and out of the lineup last year that you have those three guys probably ahead of him in terms of ability and looks like rapport with Caleb too.
I don't know. I
That just to me is just like if he's not the clear one, you can't pay him as a clear one.
Yeah, I understand that. And then after this year, like he has an $8 million dead cap hit.
Yeah.
Like, of course, you don't want to eat that, but it is something that is you can get out of a little easier. And then the year after that, it's $4 million. So
Yeah.
there is ways to get out of it a little without breaking your back, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's just kind of like whose game is it today? Like with those four.
Sure.
And I don't I don't know. I still
I love DJ.
I still need to see a lot more from Rome. I'm just gonna say that.
No doubt.
Yeah.
People
For
get
sure.
so mad when we
I
say
know,
that.
but it's true.
It is
Like,
true.
You get picked 9 overall. You better be closer to Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson,
Correct.
and those guys than he has been. Granted, it's only 2 years. He needs more time.
And it
It's
was
not,
a lot of foot
for
problems.
sure.
and-
That's not me taking a shot, but it's
Yeah.
just like he needs to start.
He's not like that's a number one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He needs to start pushing into that
Yeah.
category.
I don't even know if he's better than Luther Burden.
I don't
right
think
now,
he is.
So they're very different types of player. But it's like Luther, just like the underneath stuff and with the ball in his hands, and he's got that over the top speed. He's not going to be a jump ball guy, but he's so electric that it's like if it's 3rd and 6, it's like let's find Luther
Yeah.
or Loveland.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's gonna this is gonna be the talking
Yeah, we could
points
have a
until
lot
something
of-
happens.
Interesting roster turnover, for a team that was pretty close. It feels like they could be embarking on like a pretty serious overhaul. And I think in most years, if the Bears did what we all kind of predicted, like 7, 8, 9 wins, and they did this, it wouldn't feel like as big of a deal. But the fact that you were like a play away
Yeah.
from the NFC Championship and then you're doing this overhaul, it's like you have to kind of like check yourself, be like, we are still in the this is year 2 of Ben. He's building his roster the way
sure.
that he sees fit. So
For sure. And then there was the player grades from the NFLPA. Mostly good. I think a lot of people are most shocked by that Dennis Allen got a C+. But like, who knows? That could just be, him being like a hard ass, or people just being upset about the defense being bad.
If the defense was a good unit this year, I bet the grade would have changed.
Yeah. So I would say that's really it. Anything else, or should we just toss it over to Kyle Davidson?
I think you got any notes?
No, White Sox, Cubs. I think we can get to more down the road.
Bregman hit his first home run. Like,
who
cool.
did?
Bregman, cool.
Yeah,
Bregman, cool. Is there any hesitation with you guys for Shota? Because the White Sox touched him up yesterday with home runs, and that is what his issue was.
Is there any hesitation? He was fully healthy and not an option in Game 5.
Well,
I mean, I'm not counting on Shota in a big spot at all this year.
Yeah,
if he's our fifth starter, fine. Like, throw him out there.
He's an innings eater at this point.
He's almost like that Kyle Hendricks role, where it's like he's going to be kind of the spot starter, fifth starter, whatever.
Late Kyle Hendricks.
Late
okay,
Kyle.
yeah.
The very end of Kyle
Just
Hendricks.
had to clarify.
Yeah, no,
he
was a dog, the professor. Yeah. No, like the end of Kyle Hendricks. And then hopefully May, June, you get Steele back and Shota's just bumped out.
Yeah, no, I mean, we are full head of steam with Cade Horton, Matt Boyd, Tyon, and Cabrera. And then whatever you get from Shota is...
On paper, they look pretty
plus.
fucking good.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm excited. But to answer your question, there always has been concern.
Yeah.
All right, then. Let's kick it over to Kyle Davidson, the general manager of the Chicago Blackhawks.
Whoosh.
All right, everyone. Today we are in the interview portion of the show. We are joined by Blackhawks general manager Kyle Davidson. Kyle, welcome back. The last time we saw you, at least last time, well, I saw you at the airport, actually. Yeah. Before that was in the lobby in Nashville before the draft.
That's right, yep.
Welcome back. How are you?
Coy about
I'm great. I'm great.
Yeah, that's right. It's like we know you're drafting Connor, but like,
that was yeah. I remember now.
Yeah.
In the lobby of the hotel.
Yes.
I also feel like we were sitting next to you when the Taylor Hall trade went down. So do you want to show us your phone right now? See what we're working on?
My wife messaged me. That's exciting. Yeah. I was trying to recall. I think there was 2 calls. I think one of them probably was Taylor and Nick.
Yeah.
And then something I remember there were 2 that came through, and I have no clue what the other one was. Probably nothing.
Okay. Probably nothing.
Probably absolutely nothing to do with hockey.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot's changed since then.
Yeah.
You got your franchise player later that day.
Yep.
And this year, he looked like a franchise player. Mm-hmm. He looked incredible. How would you grade the first part of this year? And did it meet your expectations, exceed your expectations? How are you feeling about this group right now?
I'm super excited about this group.
Yeah.
I think the thing about, and it's not just being like coy, right? It's not just trying to move goalposts or anything. It's with young players, you really have no idea. You don't know what you're going to get. And from night to night, but especially like over the course of a season. And, obviously we're not to start in the first half there. We weren't entirely all rookies or young players, but they comprise the majority of the roster. And I honestly, the first couple months of the season, I was really, really pleased with. And then we just got, sideswiped with some pretty major injuries, and that kind of, that was tough to overcome. But that first little while, I was really, really pleased with how things went.
Were you like, oh my God, I am really good at this?
No. I'm way too humble and probably neurotic to it.
Okay.
I'm not that I'm admitting anything, but to ever get there, I think, and I don't think you do get there until you're raising the Stanley Cup. That's when I think you've probably figured out that you're good or not. Along the way. Until that point, you're just trying to make the best decision in the moment in every instance. And so, no, I certainly wasn't thinking.
Okay. I was thinking that.
Well, perfect. Like, I'll let any. A lot of people say I'm an idiot too. But if you're thinking that I was doing a good job, then I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I haven't thought that yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully that day never comes, but I've been pretty happy.
Yeah.
And we're recording Monday after the USA Canada game.
Right.
Were you surprised? We'll talk about Bedard for a second. Were you surprised he wasn't on that list? What were your emotions about it? Because I feel like the NHL side's like, it's not the worst thing that that your guys aren't there.
Well, look, I wanted him to be there.
Okay.
I wanted him to be there. I think he was certainly good enough to be there, but there were a lot of guys that were good enough to be there. That's the thing about the Canadian and American rosters in particular. There are so many guys that got that weren't on those teams that could have been, which is why you have the discourse that you had, right? And every time a team had a tough period, then, well, that guy should have been there, that guy should have been there. But like in the end, they were both one shot away from winning gold. And so you can't really fault anything that was done in the construction of those teams. But you know what? I think with Connor, he did everything he could. He did his job to put himself in that conversation and be under heavy consideration. And you know, ultimately didn't come to pass. And you know, I think there were, you know, there's just a huge population to draw from in terms of high-end talent with Canada, where he didn't make it, but I think he did his job in forcing them to take a hard, long look at him on that team. So
when he flew to Milan and he posted on his story, I was like, is he getting called up for Crosby? Was that part of the equation, or do you know that?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh, his Instagram was like in Milan. Like it was like right after Crosby got hurt.
I don't think he was ever in Milan.
Okay,
but,
all right.
I don't know. I have no clue what you're talking about. But
okay, I'll have to
fake geotag. Is that where we got it?
His story was like, I'm in. I'm like he was there. So maybe he wasn't there. I don't know. But
I don't know. Was that actually his Instagram?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I have no clue.
Okay.
I don't think he was there.
Okay.
I think he just ratted him out to his.
When was that?
It was like right after Crosby got injured. So it was like people were speculating that it was like he's there to take that roster spot.
No idea.
No clue. Okay.
Was it? Do you watch that as like a fan, or how? What is it like?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think, you know, there's also professional interest, but
yeah.
I'm a Canadian kid that takes huge interest in, you know, international hockey, and you know, whether I'm up scouting at World Juniors or watching the Olympics or whatever it is, I think those major events, a little part of you is always still that kid that was watching Canada on TV growing up. And so for sure, there's a little bit, you know, especially when something like this, it's you're probably watching it more as a fan than I'm not like scouting the Canada USA game. Good.
Yeah, everyone.
This guy's okay.
Yeah.
Everyone who's there is good.
Yeah. So you're not watching it that way. It's obviously interesting from a professional standpoint, but you know, I'm mostly, you know, on my group chat with my buddies back home,
trash talking,
listening to them
Americans.
freaking out.
Yeah.
I'm a little, you know, I've kind of been through the rigors of a Stanley Cup, you know, run and that kind of thing where, and I'm just an even keel person, and so I can sit through those things and not, you know, lose my mind, and I just let my buddies do that.
Yeah.
So damn though, I mean, your first time really being able to be a hockey fan because you've been in it professionally for so long was Sunday, and you got an L. That stinks.
Yeah, it is what it is. It was great, and it was one shot one way or the other, and theirs went in.
3 versus 3.
Yeah, would you like it? Would you like it as a fan for it to be 5-on-5 in an elimination game like that? For overtime?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
I would too.
Like I can't remember the exact quote, but I think John Cooper mentioned like that's designed to get the game over with, right? Which I think is
it's a TV
very real in you know in the regular season. You don't want those games going forever. Like you need a resolution, and you don't want regular seasons going extra long, right? Even for the fan experience. But in that case, maybe you want to go in a little longer. It's get into double overtime, triple overtime. That'd be pretty legendary. But I'm sort of indifferent on it, but I can definitely understand the merits of a 5-on-5 and stuff like that.
To go back to the Hawks, what do you think has been the biggest difference here for the first half under Blash? And is that exactly what you were kind of looking for?
Yeah, I think there was, when Blash came in, I think especially in training camp, there was just this feeling of, you know, there's a standard that we're going to set, that he expects and that we expect, and you're going to have to match that. And there's a way he wants things done, and he's going to make sure it's done that way. And I think the players really, really responded to that. And look, he's gone through the fire with his time in Detroit, and then learning in a really good system under a great coach in John Cooper in Tampa. And you could tell that he was coming in here and there was a general in the locker room, right? He knew exactly what he wanted, knew how to get it out of the guys, and I think that clear, decisive voice was a huge difference maker for us from day one.
Yeah, and what was that process like for hiring him? Was it because it felt like it was kind of a blank slate? Everything was about Carl and Denver, and then when that went away, did that open everything up, or did you kind of have an eye on Blash from the beginning?
Mm-hmm. And again, like a lot of times with anything, right? The public discourse is not necessarily the reality.
Yep.
I think there's a nugget of truth in everything, but not necessarily the full story, right? And Blash was definitely someone that we had on a short list, and we talked to a lot of people just to get a sense of who was out there, what was available, and honestly, I think with a lot of these things too is like they all know hockey.
Yeah,
they all know hockey. They all know what they want, but a lot of it has to be. One, their vision, and then does that align with yours? And also, is there this chemistry that and alignment in your personalities, in just this, it's a vibe check, right?
Yeah.
You go in and you get in the room with someone, and whether it's a professional relationship or a personal relationship, pretty quickly, okay, like there's something here.
Yep.
And honestly, I think with Blash, when I talked to him on the phone, we did a little virtual stuff, and it felt good, but then you have to get in the room with someone, right? And the first time we got in the room and just kind of started talking hockey and what he thought about our situation and our players, and just kind of bouncing ideas off each other. And I think he had a bathroom break or something, and kind of look around there. It was like this feels
right.
I feel like it clicked, right? Like
he's an easy guy to.
For sure. He's just, he's a good person.
Yep.
He's a smart guy.
Yep.
He's a hockey junkie. He just wants to keep getting better.
Coached everywhere.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's not only is it great from a relationship with him and I, but I think just for our players to be around someone that always, he doesn't have all the answers. He's got a very strong opinion of what he thinks should happen, but is open to feedback and open to discussion. And I think that's just great in a professional, any professional, right? That's trying to get better at their craft.
How often do you guys sit and talk about is that a daily thing, a weekly check-in? Yeah.
Like, there's only he can only go so in depth daily because only so much happens.
Right.
But it's pretty close to every day.
Yeah.
Like we just had the Olympic break, so you're doing your own thing, and but like even just where'd you go eat last night? What did you do? Like if I'm out scouting, like how was the player? Talk about the team. Talk about what happened in the league. Like anything.
Yeah.
It's definitely daily, if not multiple times a day.
Olympic break aside, how much of your job is split between scouting and the current roster?
It's probably like, being in Chicago with this team is probably like, give or take, say like 75%.
Okay.
And then the other 25, I'm out a lot of like being engaged with our scouts in the field and making sure that I'm staying current on the top players in the draft. It's such an important part of what we're doing, where we're going, keeping that pipeline churning, that I want to be involved in. I just love it. I just love being in the field with our guys. We've got, whether it's here in Chicago, whether it's in the field, we've got great people. I just love spending time with them. I think getting into the amateur rinks, I grew up on junior hockey. I love being in those rinks. I love the hockey. I love the passion that's associated with it. I love going to those small towns, whether it's Western Canada or just up in Fargo and Grand Forks. Like that gets the juices going for me. Like I love it, and it's a different experience. You go into New York, you go into MSG, and that's unreal. You go into the Bell Center in Montreal, it's so awesome. But you go, you get in an hour early to a game in Prince Albert, and like little arena with everyone knows each other. They're all talking to everyone. It's just a community thing, and it's just a great part of our game.
You're just a hockey guy.
You're just a hockey guy. I love hockey, and I love grinding with our scouts. They put in so much time, and it's such a fun process because something like say the trade deadline or free agency, like you can watch. It's a tough part of being a pro scout. Sometimes you watch players all year long, you might not get any of them.
Yeah.
In the draft, you're getting someone.
Mm-hmm.
There's a deliverable there that you've seen. There's been inputs. There's a decision. You're getting a player that you've seen. That's an exciting part.
Has your approach to the draft changed since you got hired?
In what sense?
Like, when you got here, the cupboard was bare.
Right.
Like, so you could kind of, this is going to sound flippant, but pick anyone, any position, any type of player because you needed everything. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, it feels like as a fan, and maybe this is just the way the board is shaken out, but you went from maybe best player available with an emphasis on speed and skill. The last couple of drafts, you got some big boys. Mm-hmm. So was that like an element of that's the best player we had at that time? Or is there some sort of like, hey, like we need a little roster balance? Like you're looking ahead, like when we're in the playoffs, we need a Nestorsil, a Mason West, and just get some guys that would be more physically equipped for some of those playoff wars.
Probably a little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, they still have to have some of those bedrock traits that you want to play within your system with the players that are already there. But for sure, it's no secret what you need in the playoffs, and more than anything outside of like, this physical trait or that physical trait, you need variety. Mm-hmm. You need to win and you need to score. You need to defend in different ways. Because great teams are going to be able to attack you in different ways. Yeah. So you need to be able to construct a roster that can do multiple things, and it's not just, hey, if we're going to win, it's going to be this way and this way only. It's probably too one-dimensional a team, and so you're trying to build a team that can do it multiple ways.
It does feel like the primary way, which is, I think, beneficial, the speed. Mm-hmm. The speed, you got guys who can fly up and down the lineup. Yep. Is that something that where you look at the way that this influx with Nazar more specifically, where you're starting to play a style that you envisioned when you took the job?
For sure. And again, like it's going to take time. Like Frankie and Ollie they're young.
Yeah.
They're still feeling their way into this league, right? Like someone like Nazar, a lot of times we'll talk and you almost talk about him like he's some grizzled vet. Like he didn't even start in the league last year. Like this is his first time through the season, broke his jaw. So like he won't even get 82. Right. And so he hasn't even quite lived that. So like next year there's something that he's going to live for the first time again.
Yep.
Hopefully. And so, but yes, like they have these traits that, we drafted them for a reason, not just that, but the speed factor on both of them is pretty close to elite. Yeah. And so, we saw those as identity pieces for us moving forward in driving a certain style of play and pace of play. And then, they've also got the talent behind it to play at that pace. But yes, you're carving out an identity through their traits.
Yeah. Do you get to a point, because you've had a ton of picks since you've been there? I think at this moment you might have one first-round pick. You might have two, depending on what Florida does.
Yep.
3 number 2s.
Yep.
You have a bunch of guys turning pro. Do you ever get to a point where, like, we might have too much? Like, how do we find roster spots, both at the NHL level and Rockford, for all of these guys that we're drafting? Is that a concern where you're, like, looking at the board, like, maybe we do make a trade here?
Well, you're always considering, making moves, and especially if people engage you on your prospects. And look, like if we've done a good enough job at the draft table that, oh my gosh, we've run out of roster spots. Yeah, sign me up.
Mazel tov.
Let's go.
Yeah.
But and maybe you do get to that point, but again, like the players have to develop into a point where they're to be considered, part moving forward, part of this moving forward, like they have to keep developing to the point that they are good enough to get you to where you want to go. Yeah. Not just NHL players. Right. Hopefully we've got some guys that develop and a large group that develop into players that can drive winning at the most important time of the year and not just exist in the NHL.
Yeah, that's like, I don't know how you answer this, because like being a dumb fan, like seeing your job, is it fun or terrifying to be like prospect rich? Because wouldn't you be so afraid to do the wrong thing? You know
What do you mean?
Like, to have so many guys like that who are just like, there's a lot
Like
of guys.
you trade the wrong one?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, yeah, and again, I think
drive
this
me
is something
nuts.
I've talked about in the past is that I'll go back to the prospect rich thing. I'm not scared of that because that's what we set out to do.
For sure.
So good. We're there. In terms of moving the wrong guy or doing the wrong thing, I think that's something you have to put out of your mind because once you start managing scared or tentative, then you're just going to sit back and do nothing.
Yeah.
And then that time, the opportune time to do whatever it was will pass you by, and then you're missing out on opportunities. It's all about risk reward, and you're going to take risk, right? And the other thing too is, if you're process oriented, and I think process is something that is a term and phrase that's overused, but it is very real that, you know what, if your process to making decisions is sound, you're going to prevail more than you're going to fail. But having said that, if you do move on from a player, I am not someone that, when they go elsewhere, I want them to succeed because there's so many great people in the game, and I'm talking about the players, that when you send them somewhere else, or you don't trade for someone, or you don't select someone, you don't want those players to fail because, just as a human being, you just want success for people, because the majority of the time, especially in the draft, right? You meet these 17-year-old kids and they're just great people, and so if you go one way or another, you don't want them to fall on their face, or you trade a young player, you don't want them to fall on your face so you're looking good. No, it's just, you hope it works out for everyone involved. And you know what, if they turn out to be a good player that maybe a bit better than you thought, or a bit better than what you got, it is what it is. And hopefully it's the trade-off isn't so massive that you're taking a hit on your end just from a value perspective. But in the end, you know what, you also got to do what's right for your organization. If that's taking risk and sending a young player elsewhere and they thrive, then awesome, good for them.
Yeah. How hard is it to actually remove your GM hat, look at a player as a player instead of an asset that could be dealt, could be kept from a roster construction standpoint? Because the way you're talking, to me, it would just be human nature to want them to succeed on their own. But then you look at it from the GM perspective, it's I got to get what's best for our organization.
Well, in the end, it all comes down to doing what's best for your organization.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And in much in our case, over the last number of years, it's the long term. But I would be lying if I said it wasn't hard, because you like these people.
Of course, yeah.
And the whole, business is business, and it's business, it's not personal. Well, again, there's so many layers to what personal is. That's family, that's a relationship, but a relationship with your players and your staff.
Mm-hmm.
To me, we spend way too much time in these jobs to be able to separate that fully.
For sure, totally.
And it's really tough. It's really, really tough. For me, I care about the people I work with, players, coaches, staff. And in the end, if I'm going to be working with people every day, I want people that I enjoy being around.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very firmly the case with the people that I'm working with now, but people that have moved on, other players or coaches that, and so there is absolutely a personnel element to it that you have to do your best to, take that lens off at times, but that's also where having the right people around you helps too.
For sure,
and
for
it's so necessary to have the people around you that'll tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And having that clear perspective to kind of, maybe when you are going down a road that's too emotional, too personal, or you're not, whatever it is that you're not looking at as clear as you should, they're going to reset, your sight on things. And so I believe that's super, super important, is to make sure you have the people around you and be willing to gather that feedback.
Yeah, and if you don't do all that, that sounds like to me at least, what you described, like a foundational piece to building a healthy organization. Not even hockey, just
any company
as a whole. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Honest feedback, honest discourse, and the ability and freedom for the people, whether it's talking about a trade, a signing, a draft pick, to voice their opinion in a space that's void of judgment or some heavy-handed approach from me to silence what I don't want to hear. I think that's you can go down a road where you're creating your own fantasy at that point, right? And you start either creating a reality that's not true, or sometimes what we talk about, we're building a player. You're building the avatar of a player that you want there to be, rather than what's actually there. And so I think that's something we try and avoid a lot.
Where'd you learn all this, like this perspective on how to work? Because you've been with the Hawks your entire adult life. So like, where does this, which it sounds like a little bit maybe of a different approach, but like, where did you kind of get these values, and like, who was like influential in your kind of model for how you want to run a hockey ops department?
Well, I think you just learn a lot through just being around, and taking things in, and I honestly, like, over the years, like, look, like I spent a lot of years under Stan, and he was so good to me, in terms of, I was an intern, and then fresh out of my internship, allowing me to go scout, allowing me to be in trade deadline stuff, like just the ability to observe. And I wasn't chiming in on stuff. I can't even remember what we would have discussed at that time, but just being around and sort of those are the moments that allow you to form philosophy and opinion, and so that was huge for me. And then someone that kind of took me under his wing early on was Norm McIver, who's still with us. I again, fresh out of an internship, I still remember, I don't even think I really knew who he was, and he was going down to St. Louis to watch, I think it might have been a preseason game, to watch Dallas and St. Louis. And, hey, I'm going. Do you want to go? Okay. And got to know him there. And so, but, after the games, again, probably didn't know who I was. What'd you think? Who'd you like? And you start talking hockey. And so those are the things that I think really helped. Not that I couldn't have those conversations, but they give you the confidence. They pressure test your philosophies and your theories and what you think. And so you pick things up along the way. And then another person I learned a ton from was Jeff Greenberg. When we hired him from the Cubs. It's just like a super smart, been through and with a successful organization with the Cubs when they won, and been around great executives on his end, and an invaluable period having him part of our staff. He was awesome, and still text almost daily with him.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, I think those are the couple people along the way, also I crossed paths with a lot of people previous, like Kevin Cheveldayoff, Mark Bergevin. They're all part of the organization. My time coming up through the organization. And so, those are some people that certainly, whether they know it or not, or whether they went out of their way or not, they just, they help you, and you learn quite a bit from those people along the way.
Yeah. Earlier you said you've always had like this long-term review, which was necessary, obviously. When do you think that flips, where you have to start being like, we're getting closer. Maybe we have to make a move.
It's go time.
Yeah. Like when do you have a feel for that? Do you have like, is it a feel? Is it like, hey, like we're in year 4 of this, like it's time to start going, we have enough, like where do you draw that line, and how do you look at like the next 18, 24 months, I guess?
Yeah, like a lot of it too is whether you want to or not, or you like say you just for example, I want to do something right now.
Yeah.
There might not be anything to do.
Yeah.
Right. It's just there's so many players that are locked up, that are part of organizations and that just aren't available, and so you just can't. Right.
Yeah.
And so for me, the constant was always, what can we control? We can control who we draft, how we develop, and the opportunities we present to them. And so that's what we will control. Now, if something came up this afternoon that made sense in the current and long term, then let's see if we can make this happen.
Okay.
So like it's not a concerted effort to just like, someone calls and, hey, I've got this big player available.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
Okay.
I can't talk about that right now.
Okay.
We've got young players.
Okay.
And now, like, are we going to go out and trade for a 35-year-old? Probably not. Like, it's just not the timeline and the patience factor that is required.
Like a 28-year-old maybe.
Yeah, like someone that's like, look, if there's, it's no different than before. If there's someone that's like in their prime that fits our trajectory here and can be part of this moving forward, let's talk about it.
Okay.
And so like you never close yourself off to any of that. And I shouldn't even say like, a player in their 30s, like if it makes sense and there's a benefit, like you explore that. You never close yourself off to anything or build some, imaginary boundaries around what you can do to improve your situation.
Case by case.
100%. And so, but like, I think what you're asking is like a major acquisition or something like that, right?
Like somebody who might have been playing in the game, in the gold medal game, like that type of an elite.
And again, like that's, you're talking like the likelihood of those players coming available is
small.
It's small, right? And it making sense and what you'd have to give up and that kind of thing, right? And so, but you talked about, the number of players coming up and the more they develop, call it what it is too. This is a business, and the more your players mature and become appealing around the league, the more those things become an option, right? And the closer players are to the NHL, the more appeal they have around the league. And so like that's when your options would theoretically grow. Now, how realistic is something like that? It's it's probably more so for the fans to debate than anything that gets real in our boardroom. But you're always open, you're always considering, and you're always building out that longer term vision. And if someone fits that, then you're willing to strike.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got a dumb question. Have you had any trade calls for Bedard or Oliver Moore, like the real young core guys that you think are going to be here for the next decade?
Like as people call them?
Yeah. Like, or is it just like an unwritten rule? Like, oh, we know those guys are untouchable. That's a dumb hockey guy question.
People aren't asking.
Yeah. Okay.
No, but I don't know.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah. No.
Yes or no?
Yeah.
Normally I don't like to confirm or deny, but like, no. I think it's more so like, look, like these guys are like important. And again, if it got to the point, if you're being realistic and if I called on some great player, they're probably asking on some really appealing player offer. But it's just,
no active trade discussions around Connor Bedard can confirm.
Is there, not.
Well, hold on. What about active contract negotiations for Connor Bedard? Is there any updates on or movement on that?
Nothing new there. No,
Okay.
I think it's probably something that I think we kind of discussed early on that just let the season play out, and I think we're pretty close to that point.
Yeah.
So I think just let the clock run out in this season and figure it out after the year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll go back then and ask something about contract wise. How does something like the Nazar extension, like when does that start and when does that end? Like how long does something like that take? And I know everyone's different.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious from like a fan perspective.
And we're gonna call Kevin Magnuson after.
Kevin's a good dude.
Yeah,
he's a good man.
fan.
I'm trying to remember. I think it's something you sort of just engage, the interest on like, hey, is this something that's you'd be open to, right?
Yeah.
And then in terms of when it like actually, I don't recall. I feel like I think every negotiation is different. I think generally the way I like to do business is let's just get real. Like I don't love the
no beating around the bush.
Yeah. Like let's just, you kind of know what you're going to want. I know, like, let's not, I come in 10 feet below, you come in 10 feet above, and then we just song and dance for 2 months. And so I want to say from that standpoint, it was pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then, the players got to make a choice, right? How do I want to play this? Is the, the security and the guarantee good? Do I want to go out and play this out? How do you want that to work? And so, whenever it was, I can't remember, but I feel like it was fairly quick. But it was a pretty unique situation too. He was so new to the NHL. I think he only played 50 some games and had a great World Championships, which, obviously the World Championships don't necessarily play into the negotiation itself from a statistical standpoint, but like you see maybe what it gives you a little window into the future.
He balled out in that.
Right, he was great.
Yeah.
He was great, and they won gold, and he was a big part of that. And so that you take that in on your end in terms of maybe furthering the confidence you had in the player and what you saw to go down that road. So, but yeah, I think it was pretty quick. I honestly blank.
Like a week? Or
No.
weeks?
Like probably like weeks for sure.
Yeah, weeks
for sure. Yeah, no, but it wasn't like long
drawn
road.
out.
Like LeBron saga or something like that.
Yeah.
Are you able to, if possible, to give us some behind the scenes in the Seth Jones trade? Like, was it always like Spencer Knight? Like that's my guy.
Yeah, like it was. I think there were just only, even like take player names out of it. Like from a money perspective, I think there were only certain couple ways they could go.
Yes.
And their backup made $4 million, and call it what it is. Like when you get in the playoffs, unless there's an injury, your backup's probably not playing. So I think from a salary perspective, that made sense.
Yeah.
But look, back to the draft. Spencer was a guy we loved. We had really high, and our people internally had tracked him along the way just because of how much interest we had in the draft at that time. And so it was always a super appealing player. That goalie box that you have to check along the way, that's maybe one of the more fluid positions to when are you going to check that box and when are you going to get that player? Do you get it later on, early on? And again, like we talk about things just coming up and like, hey, here we go. Like that's this makes sense right now. So let's do it. Right. And so, I think it was always part of it. One, because we had an appreciation for Spencer, but even I think from the money standpoint on their end, it sort of had to be something along those lines from a salary cap perspective. But no, it worked out for both sides. Spencer's been dynamite for us. Seth went and played great hockey to the point where he was, unfortunately didn't get to them. Was selected for USA, and he's a great player and really happy for his success in Florida.
Yeah, a true win-win.
For sure.
Trade.
For sure. And that's honestly, like, people say that, and I don't believe that's just lip service. Like, you want that.
Yeah.
You want that because in again, we talked about the people. Like, this is a guy that came to Chicago, didn't work out the way anyone had hoped, given the trajectory of the team and sort of what I decided to do. And so, he didn't sign up for that.
Yeah.
And so he got put in a place where it was more along the lines of, obviously anyone would want to hop into a situation like that. But, he got something, he checked a major career box for himself in Florida. And we checked a major box for ourselves in finding an elite young goalie. Mm-hmm. And so it's a win-win, and it's, super happy for him and the success he had in Florida and continues to have.
Yeah. Like you said, major box checks with Spencer Knight. Mm-hmm. What are some of the other boxes when you look at your pipeline, the current NHL roster, outside of development, that you're like, we still need this type of player? We still, like traits and things like that to like be like, we're missing this. It's a barrier to genuinely competing. Development aside.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's probably a hard thing to target without saying like we have to see what these guys turn into, right? Because again, you're never going to have every box checked, but I believe the answer to that question I don't know if there's an answer to that question yet.
Okay.
Because, whether it's, we've got young defensemen that need to keep growing. We've got young forwards that are probably a little bit younger than our defense core in some cases that we need to see what they start to become. Now, it doesn't mean you don't fill along the edges. Like, look, when you're filling out a roster, you got the 6 defensemen down the road. You got, there's more wing spots than center spots.
Yep.
And so maybe, there's spots, there's just more forward spots. So maybe there's some spots up there just given the sheer volume.
Yep.
But honestly, like, and I hate to kick it back to development, but like,
I specifically said not to do that.
I know, and I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And because like if we've got so many former first round picks and guys that are gonna be turning pro so soon that we might have the answer right in our midst, and so we don't I wouldn't want to go and get and do something that short circuits either someone we have internally that can be better than what we can go get.
Yeah.
There's like the initial satisfaction of like, hey, we got a guy and like high fives.
I would love it.
Right. And like, but that's the thing that I think is the biggest part of my job is and all of our jobs internally is one, what's out there, what's available to bring in that is new, if anything, and what's the honest evaluation of that, and then also what's the honest evaluation of what we've got internally.
Yeah.
And like not the rose-colored glasses, like, hey, we drafted this guy, so he's going to be great. Like honest, where's their development headed? What are the skills and traits that have continued to grow? And I do believe we have a lot of guys internally that can check a lot of the boxes that necessarily aren't, checked.
Yeah.
Because they're just not here yet. Right. And that takes time and it's a patient approach in an unpatient world, which like it's tough for me too sometimes. And you want to set rocket fuel, but it's just, there's no fuse to light there sometimes. Right. And you just have to let these things grow organically. And that's what we're doing. Having said that, I feel very strongly that we've got some really exciting pieces that have yet to arrive that are going to be impact players for us. And so,
let's talk about 2 of those.
Okay.
Frondell.
Yeah.
Do you expect him to play in the NHL this year?
I hope so.
Okay.
I hope so. Again, there's a lot of season left for him, and we'll see where his season goes and all of that. But my hope is that we can get him over here.
Okay.
Assuming he has a good year and but if he ends early and is able to come over, then I would love to have him over, get that experience. But until that happens, we'll see. But yeah, he's certainly one of those guys that is going to be a major player for us moving forward.
And I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but Kanserov.
That's right.
That's right.
As far as I know.
I've heard it pronounced 2 different ways.
Kanserov.
Yeah. I don't know his status with you guys yet. Frondell has signed. So
yes, he's signed.
That's more straightforward.
Yeah. So Roman's playing with Magnitogorsk right now. They're a really good team. He's super focused on kind of getting back to winning a championship with them, which he's already done. But he's having such a good year. Yeah. Such an exciting prospect. And so, I think we're just going to let him play out his year and then try and figure that out. Their season just goes longer.
Yeah.
And so that wouldn't be anything, certainly in the short term, but we're just going to let him play, let him, hopefully have a really good playoff run with Magnitogorsk and then see where that goes. But a really exciting player. Just a lot of intrigue because we don't have eyes on him necessarily. Like,
he goes viral, like with insane goals. Yeah,
awesome year, and all the highlights are out there, and we watch all the games, and I think we've got a really good relationship with him, and so we're super excited about him. He's a great kid. We loved him when we met him at Nashville at the draft. Great personality and just an awesome player, and so hopefully we can.
So there's no question about if with him necessarily. You expect him to be here either in the summer or before that?
I think it's probably more of a question of when.
Okay.
Yeah. It's there's just things you got to work through with some of these players, and so we'll figure that out at the right time. But again, like it's good relationship with him, but also letting him do his thing and letting him perform and letting him continue to develop. And, they've been a great situation and a great partner for him. And so, he's getting to this point and had the success with that organization. So we're really enjoying what he's done and how they're managing him.
Has anyone's development surprised you? So like you took a kid, and they're either ahead of schedule or like, oh my God, we found something really special here, that it was kind of a flyer in the draft. Because it's like, I think if you look at the average, most teams get one player out of the draft.
Yeah.
It seems to be the case.
Yeah.
So feels like you're trending ahead of that. So is there...
That's also because we've, I'm not, again, this is the humble nature here. Whoa, but we've intentionally used a lot more capital because of how hard the odds are to get players, that you hit it with volume and hopefully you just get a couple more players out of it than the average, and you beat the averages that way. Maybe not, player per pick. But we were picking above the average number that you would normally get in a draft. And so I'm trying to think if there's a player that surprised me.
Like a Ryan Green feels like he's ahead of schedule, right?
Yeah, well, I think
conversation.
Yeah, it's a good one. Ryan we intended on, and coming out of camp, he was going to start in Rockford.
Yeah.
And I want to say it was Landon Slager got hurt.
Yeah.
Like in the last preseason game, so he needed the body, and he came up and performed very well, and then all of a sudden found himself on Bedard's wing and, assimilated himself well there, but he's also a smart player that can play a couple different positions, so he makes himself useful throughout the lineup. But yeah, Ryan's a good one. I was thinking trying to think of outside of the NHL.
Or that too, yeah.
Do you have any other names that you thought?
Well, I mean,
seemed dialed in.
Feels like Crevier would fit that. Like he's
yeah. Louis' late round pick that just keeps on getting better and better, and as the confidence grows, he's just taken a step every single time, and so to the point where he's a mainstay in the NHL lineup and providing us great play in really hard minutes. I think the other one, perhaps for me, and I'm not saying this in a bad way on the player. It's just you don't know how a player that has such success offensively at an amateur level is going to assimilate to pro, and that's Nick Lardis.
Yeah.
You just don't know how they're going to handle that, how they're going to, both sides of the puck, and he's been great.
Yeah.
He's been great. And so I don't know, maybe I was just reading it wrong. Maybe it was just he was in such an offensive role that's just what you saw from him in Brantford. But he came up and he's been dynamite on both sides of the puck in Rockford. He keeps producing. He came up and he scored when he was up here, and again, like just making some of these like subtle plays that only guys with this high level of especially offensive hockey sense can make, and so that he's probably the one early on out of the freshly pro players that I would say, okay, like that was
that's it.
I knew you would get there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it would be from game
quick.
one.
And
so that's been really exciting from our perspective.
How much like player personality, character goes into the picks?
Oh, a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. Yeah. Like you want to make sure that they're going to fit in the locker room. They're going to be able to grow with this group because in the end, whether it's realistic or not, you're picking players to be part of this for a long time.
Right.
And so, you want them to fit in with the group, and you want them to be part of that ascension and that long-term picture. And, I think we've done a pretty good job of finding those players, and you see it firsthand at our development camps, and the group's super tight right from the start. And we went off ice and we didn't do any on ice stuff, and we focused it all, in the gym, maybe pro habits and the things that you might experience in pro, and kind of getting them a head start on those those facets of their development, and for a lot of team oriented week-long competition stuff, and you see the group come together, and it starts there. And I know guys are staying in touch, whether they're in NCAA or junior, they're all staying in touch, they're all connected. And then when they get in here, there's just that familiarity, and that you can feel how tight that group is, with the young guys when they come up, and they're just buddies, right? And it's exciting to see them showing up to the rink together, and you go there on an off day and they're hanging out at the rink together in the off day, but it starts at development camp.
Yeah.
So,
what do you make of the whole the Chicago Young Stars alliance with Caleb and PCA and Bedard?
I think it's awesome. Yeah. I think it's so cool. It's such an exciting time in Chicago, because there's teams maybe different stages, but like they've got these young elite talented players that I think there's a unique aspect to them understanding their place in the sports landscape and embracing that and kind of coming together on it, right? And supporting each other. And PCA and Caleb at our game sitting on the glass, and it was so cool. Like I know some of the players talked about it, but I was watching the game, and all of a sudden the place goes nuts. And I thought maybe there was like a fight in 300 level or something. And people are going nuts, and I look up and it's like, oh, okay. And then they pan over and PCA's there. And so, I think it's awesome. And they're experiencing life in what I think is, one of the premier sports markets in the world. They're experiencing it at similar ages, similar points of their career. And it's just really unique that they can connect and share, what they're going through, because only those guys know,
right?
What it is
Being
that they're
superstar.
And the attention, the pressure, the lifestyle that goes along with that. I think it's awesome that they have each other to kind of connect with on that level.
Sweet as a fan, like hearing stories from Roenick and Chelios hanging out with Jordan was always so cool growing up.
It's again, because I think it's such Chicago feels like, okay, like you've got the Cubs White Sox thing, right? And there's maybe some rivalry there, but it feels like such a supportive community. It's not like, oh, if I'm a Blackhawks fan, I'm not a Bears fan, or if I'm a Bears fan, I'm not a Bulls, or it's just such you can get behind so many teams together and support each other, and it feels like the athletes have embraced that, and hopefully all these teams ascend together and experience success at relatively similar windows. I think it could be.
It's just all win at the same time.
That'd be pretty sweet. Boston kind of did it,
right? And it's just it's something. The number of teams in our market is not something that a lot of cities have. And so to have exciting talent on every team that can be part of this group together that grows together is just it's super unique and super special, I think.
You've talked about your process and being level-headed and all that. Does anything scare you? Is there anything that you're like worried about for the next 5 years, like that keep kind of like, I gotta have to deal with that at some point? Or is it just like a day-to-day? Like, are you worried? Are you like doing cap projections out 6 years, like that kind of thing?
You do, but I would like.
That's a tomorrow issue.
Yeah, it's down the road. Like I don't, not right now. No. Like again, like you want to do well in everything, and so like, right now it's the trade deadline, and then it's going to be, the off season, and then it's going to be getting ready for the season, and like, so you just kind of worry in your pocket while also, making sure you're taking care of the longer term. I don't think there's anything. There's no like. There's nothing like on the horizon. I'm like, oh boy, we gotta really worry about that. But maybe those things arise along the way. I'm sure they will. Like there's gonna be things that it's never a smooth ride, right? And whether it's we need to find this for our roster, or we need to fit this person into the cap, or like that's the the challenge of managing a sports team, and hopefully we get to the point where, we're worrying about like those final pieces, right? What is the thing that was going to put us over the top? Hopefully we get to that point, but until then, you're probably just worrying about development, right? Where we're at, we're probably making sure that, we're doing everything we can and to ensure that players develop, and hopefully they do take those steps that you really want.
Do you ever feel like, because hockey's so different, where you draft a kid and he goes off somewhere. Yeah. Do you ever worry about like the development at a certain place, or like you just don't have hands on, like you don't have like necessarily the control that you would want? Be like, oh,
you're talking about in like the amateur, like
like
they
you draft a kid and he goes to college and you're like, man, we want him as a center. They got him playing as a wing. Is there like an element of that you're like, that you like stresses you out a little bit?
I guess conceivably there could be. Okay. There's always, again, I take a little bit more of a laid-back, laissez-faire approach to that, where I do believe that the talent and that innate gift will take over, even if their situation's not perfect. Yeah. And so, there's always stuff along the way. I wish they would use that player differently. I wish, maybe he could have gone to this team and played on that team, instead of going here. And so, but in the end, I think they've, are they going to work hard? Yeah. Are they going to put the work in the season, in the off season? Do they have the natural hockey sense, drive, talent, overarching word talent to become the player that we believe they should become? I think that's more at play than, oh man, like they're playing him 14 minutes and he should be playing 17. Like, I think that's, leave that to minor hockey parents, right? To worry about that stuff. Yeah. And so, because in the end, I think just the cream rises to the top. If that player's good enough, they're going to figure it out. They're going to find a way. It's talent will win out in the end, and talent and hard work will win out in the end versus, a slightly suboptimal situation for a year or two.
Mm-hmm. What has been, how long have you been in this chair now?
4 and a bit.
4 and a bit.
I don't even know.
What's been your favorite part of the job, and what's something that you didn't anticipate? You're like, I can't believe I got to deal with this, because everybody's got days like that where you're like,
oh man. I think the part of the job that I love is, and I think it's kind of like answer both, is you get in the room with your group and you start like really building out the team, right? Yeah. Like, this is what we want. This is what we want to find. This is what we like. And right now it's sort of manifested itself most in draft room prep.
Yeah.
And going into this year, seeing some of those players you drafted and putting them in the NHL roster, and that was a nice kind of shift, for us, where we're starting to do that, and we've entered that.
Some of the fruits of your labor.
100%. But I just love talking hockey. I love talking players. I love showing up a little early to games and getting excited for a player, and the thrill of that hunt for that a player is something that I love. And I love scouting. I love getting on the road, and sometimes it's alone, but when you're with someone and you can talk hockey, and I think that's what we all get in this for. You get in for winning, but along the way, it's a thrill of finding that talent and building that team. I think the one thing that that is tough about the job, that it's natural. I think any executive will tell you, is that when that phone rings, it's probably not great. It's not bad. It's nothing terrible, but it's rarely that phone rings, you pick it up and someone's like, God, this is going great. Click.
Job. Yeah.
That, it's not the call you get. It's hey, this, maybe we, I'm not happy about this, or, because in the end you're dealing with,
is that like internal stuff you're talking about now? Or like who's calling you where you're like,
well, no, it's just, something like even, a part of the job, like staff contracts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
That's very, very important to someone's life, right? Their professional career, their personal life, and then you're also, you've any company, you've got budgets to stay within, and it's the hardest part of this job, I think, for me, because I have such a personal relationship with my people. Yeah, and you want to give them the world. But you can't, you're there's naturally and very understandably, like any company out there, there's things you can and can't do. But outside of contracts, it's like, someone's development, right? As an employee, whether it's entry level, whether that's executive, they always, if you hire the right people, they want to keep growing. They want to get better at their jobs. And so making sure that you're facilitating that, and that's not a negative part of the job. It's just something that's outside of the job that you don't necessarily think of walking in, right? You're walking in and you're thinking, let's build this team. Let's win the Stanley Cup. Let's win games and find great players. You don't, it's there, but you don't necessarily think of that and all the time. And it's been a huge part. And honestly, sort of like it's an exciting part in a way too, because you do get to see people that you care about grow and get better and experience things just like I did. I can put myself in their shoes. I was an intern. I was given opportunity. Now you have to be ready and act accordingly to keep getting those opportunities. But that's an exciting part, is to expose people to things that are first for them and to help them grow and help them. But I just think, again,
you're a development guy, personal development
on and off the ice. Yeah, for sure. And so that's an exciting part, but it's, there's just, you deal, there's always fires to put out, whether it's, hockey, off the ice, whatever, it just happens, right? And it's no different than anywhere else. And so those are the things that, you don't necessarily think of coming into the job, that it's like, it takes a lot of your time, and general manager, you have a lot of other people that fall underneath you that aren't hockey players. Yeah. And so, sometimes, different parts of the season, it's all hockey, heading up into things like trade deadline, draft, like it's all hockey. And then outside of that, it's much more administrative than people would expect. Right. And so, but that's the same around any sporting league. So.
Yeah. And then what is the relationship like with Danny Wirtz then? Can you just be like, hey, like I have a scout that needs an extra $15K in his contract? Like how does that work?
No, like
have a tight relationship with Danny?
Oh, I've got a great relationship with Danny. That example, I don't know if I take that to him. That's a little outside of things I need to bring to Danny, sure. and someone that owns the team. But honestly, I firmly believe, and this isn't just me, talking up my boss. Yeah.
I'm a Danny fan, so yeah.
I think I have the best boss in sports, because when taking on a job like this, your name's out there in a big way. What you do and what you build is your reputation along the way, but like your professional reputation is what you're going to do in that job. And he has let me control that every step of the way. And I think that's all you can ask for. Is the support. Yep. You ask the questions when questions need to be asked, and you press me to make sure my thinking's well-rounded on something. But in the end, if you handed someone the keys to do a job, you let them
empower them to do that,
for sure. And that's 100% what he's done. And so I can't speak more positively about Danny and how he's allowed myself and our staff to own our path and not put his thumb on the scale and change something that we thought was the right thing to do. So he's awesome.
That's one of the worst spots a GM could be in, right? Like if you have an owner who is like, I don't know about this timeline. Like we need to start winning sooner. Your vision is great. But...
And the thing is like, I don't begrudge any owner for doing that. Like this is your company in the end. Like I don't I don't own this company. Like he owns it, and what his direction ultimately is, what he says is what you do. But he's allowed ourselves to drive that direction, that philosophy, and a lot of people, you see after something like after the Super Bowl, the owner gets the trophy and holds it up, and people are like, oh, that's kind of hokey, and it should be for the. And I agree, like the players did it, but like to get to that point, there is so much foundation laid that required the support of ownership, that something like we're doing here with the Blackhawks with this rebuild, and if the stars align and we get this right and we get to that pinnacle, that is an ownership win.
Yeah,
that is an ownership win, no doubt about it. We would have had executed, the players would have done their jobs, management done their jobs, coaches. But to get to that point, there is so much support and so much belief that would have been required along the way to put the team and the players in the situation to execute. That's an ownership win. And I thought it was funny growing up. Oh, the owner, but like now being in it, the owners play such a big role in this that I get it.
On the flip side, then, if it's we'll use the Chicago White Sox as an example.
I'm not going into anyone else's situation. I'm going to talk on ours.
All right, we'll just use it as a larger hypothetical. Yeah. Does the buck stop at the owner when the team stinks? It doesn't matter if it's the White Sox or the Timberwolves.
I think you've already took the lid off the question.
Yeah.
No, but like the thing is like it's my job to execute.
Yeah.
And if the players I bring in don't get the job done, that's on me.
Yeah.
And so that is on me. But what I'm talking about is the support that's required to go get those players is sometimes runs counter to the frustration in the market or so,
Yeah.
And so that support is so important and foundational to where that team could go. And so in the end, you know what, like if the team doesn't perform and you know what, all these, you draft and develop and it doesn't get the job, that's on me. I didn't do my job. That's not Danny's fault. That's on me.
Yeah.
And so that's where it would be up to him to make a decision on me at that point if I've done my job. But that's that will fall solely on the general manager at that time if it doesn't work.
And it's a little bit different with the salary.
I understand.
So,
and sorry, I know you probably got to get out of here, but is that a conversation around GM circles where it's like, man, you got it good, like your guy stays out of it? Like I'm
not
little,
really.
No?
I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
No, like I just know my situation, and I don't know what anyone else lives. I don't know what anyone else experiences, but I can only speak on what I know, and what I know is that our owner gives us every opportunity to succeed. And if you're a fan of the Blackhawks, then you should be very, very satisfied and pleased that's how your owner is approaching his team, because he's allowing the hockey department to control the direction of this team and just support, and that's
and let you tear it down to the studs and make a lot of hard decisions.
It was 100%, 100%, and a lot of hard decisions that, again, I don't take for granted the support and how hard some of those decisions were. Like, it was really hard, and to be honest, like things you just kind of like, man, like that was, I think, even way harder than you think in the moment.
Yeah.
And so, but that was the position, I was fortunate enough to be in. It's a blessing. It's a good spot to be in, to be able to make tough decisions. And so I don't take that for granted. And out of respect for that, you try and get every bit of information, think of it from every angle, and be respectful of that power and influence you have over an organization, a fan base, and
his family business.
Yeah.
His family business,
Yeah.
for sure. And so that's why when it goes back, you talk about, the personal relationships and everything. In the end, it's my job to do what's best for the Chicago Blackhawks. And because that's what the words families entrusted me with. Mm-hmm. And that's what I always come back to, is this right for the Chicago Blackhawks? Not, is this going to look good on me? It's like, I've always thought, this isn't about being right. This is about getting it right. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I approach every day.
Okay.
Great way to end.
Great way to end. All right.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you. Yeah.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you. I'm a little disappointed. I was hoping to come in here to see Frank the Tank, but
he's in spring training.
Hey, if anything comes out of the Olympics, how excited was Frank with Jack Hughes and his New Jersey Devil guy?
Well, that's what I said though, because Dave said. Because did you see Jack's quote? He's like, I was worried when I was in the box that Barstool was going to be making fun of me.
I didn't see that.
I thought that was a fake quote.
No, that was real.
That was a real quote.
Yeah.
I thought that was press conference because he took the penalty late.
Yeah.
And he's like, I was worried that, Barstool, I'd be the most hated person in America or something like that.
Yeah, and we'd be killing him.
He had to be talking about Frank the Tank.
That's the thing. And then Dave quote tweeted it. Portnoy, he's like, hey, you'll never be hated by Barstool. I was like, I don't know. Frank might feel differently.
Yeah.
Do we have 1 second to tell?
Do whatever you want. Yeah.
So I don't know if I mentioned this to you off camera or not, but I was in New York. It was before a Ranger game. I think I was at Board of Governors meeting in New York. I was walking around Manhattan, had time to kill. And I'm just standing at a street corner, and I look down and I see this turquoise jacket down the street. Dolphins jacket. I'm like, oh my God, it's Frank. I in dress shoes. I was hustling, and I got a selfie with him.
Oh no, that's great.
And he couldn't have wanted me to get out of there quicker. But he was very nice. And then I was like, should I say something? I people ask me for photos all the time, and it's cool and it's nice. And I thought maybe I have to tell him I appreciate what he's doing, and especially with his health journey and stuff like that. And I start about two seconds. He's like, okay, thanks, bye. He was out of there.
He's a A-lister these days.
You should be thankful that he's not a Blackhawks fan. We'll say that. He would make your life a lot worse.
So happy.
Oh man.
No, Brian Campbell always says we got to get Frank on our set. I was like,
no,
leave him in New Jersey. I love Frank, but he can be a Devils fan.
Yeah. Oh, that's so. When was that?
That was in December.
Oh, so that was
months
recently.
ago.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I sent it back to all my buddies back home.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank.
Well, thanks again, man.
Yeah, it's great having you in.
Thank you.
All right, that's the show, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next week. See you then.